After a long shift, I came home to a romantic dinner. My husband smiled, just wanted to spoil you. But when I went to the bedroom, I found a woman's purse under my pillow. Heart pounding, I whispered, "Whose is this?" He froze. Then, a voice from the bathroom said, "Mine." When she walked out, I nearly collapsed. I don't even know how to start this. My hands are shaking as I type this out. I just need to get it all out because my mind won't shut up, and I feel like if I don't tell someone, I'm going to explode. I got home from work last night, exhausted. It was one of those shifts where everything that could go wrong did. I work in a hospital, long hours, barely any time to eat, constantly on my feet. By the time I walked through my front door, I just wanted to shower and collapse into bed. But instead, I came home to something else. The lights were dimmed. Candles were flickering on the dining table. A bottle of wine sat next to two perfectly set plates, each with a steaming meal. And there was my husband, standing there with a small smile, like he had been waiting for me. "Hey, babe," he said softly, walking over to kiss my cheek. "Thought I'd surprise you. Just wanted to do something nice." And I remember feeling touched. A little surprised, sure. Nick wasn't the romantic type. We'd been together for 8 years, married for 5, and somewhere along the way, things had settled into routine. Not bad, not great, just routine. I smiled at him, kissed him back, and sat down. He pulled out my chair, poured me a glass of wine, told me to relax. And I tried. But something felt off. I couldn't put my finger on it at first. Maybe it was how stiff he seemed, or how his knee bounced under the table like he had too much nervous energy. Maybe it was the way he kept glancing toward the bedroom, like he was waiting for something, or someone. Then, halfway through dinner, he excused himself. "I'll be right back," he mumbled, standing up. "Just need to use the bathroom." And that was the moment. That was when my stomach twisted, and something inside me just knew. I sat there, listening. The tap turned on, then off. His footsteps were too careful, like he was trying not to make noise. I don't know why I did it. I don't know what I expected to find. But something made me stand up. Something made me walk toward the bedroom. The door was open. The room looked normal. Our neatly made bed. His work clothes draped over a chair. My slippers near the nightstand. But then, I pulled back my pillow. And there it was. A purse. Not mine. Everything inside me froze. My heart started pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. Slowly, I picked it up. It was small, expensive, definitely not something I'd ever buy. My fingers felt numb as I ran them over the smooth leather. A woman's purse. In my bed. I turned toward the hallway, toward the soft glow of the bathroom light. My throat was dry, but I forced the words out. "Whose is this?" I barely recognized my own voice. It came out quiet, uneven. But it was loud enough. Because Nick froze. He stood there, halfway in the bathroom doorway, eyes wide like a deer caught in headlights. He didn't say a word. Didn't move. And then, a voice. Mine. I swear my heart stopped. And then, stepping out of the bathroom, wrapped in my bathrobe, her hair still damp from a shower, was a woman. I wish I could say I reacted calmly. That I stood there with dignity, that I held my ground. But I snapped. My brain couldn't keep up with what I was seeing. I staggered back, still gripping the purse. My whole body felt like it was burning from the inside out. And then she had the audacity to smirk. I threw the purse. It hit the dresser with a loud thud, spilling its contents all over the floor, makeup, gum, a hotel key card. Nick jumped. Just let me explain. But I was already moving. I shoved past him so hard he stumbled. My head was spinning. My chest was so tight I could barely breathe. My hands were shaking, and all I could see was her, standing there, in my home, wearing my robe, acting like she had the right to be there. "Who the F are you?" I shouted. She just laughed. Laughed. Like this was funny. And then, in the most casual voice imaginable, she said, "Oh, come on. Your acting like this is a surprise." I stared at her. My hands clenched into fists. Nick stepped in front of her, trying to block me. "Just calm down, okay? Just let's talk about this." But she wasn't done. She folded her arms and cocked her head, looking me up and down, like she was bored. "We've been together for almost a year," she said. "You really didn't notice?" I swear the room spun. "A year?" My mouth went dry. I turned to Nick, barely able to keep my voice steady. Tell me she's lying. He opened his mouth. Then closed it. And that was it. That was the moment I knew. I don't remember much after that, not clearly. I think I screamed. I think I grabbed his laptop off the nightstand and hurled it across the room. He was begging, telling me he was sorry, that it didn't mean anything, that he still loved me. And she? She just watched. I don't know how long I stood there, shaking, my breath coming out in ragged gasps. But then I noticed something. The hotel key card on the floor. And the date on it. Yesterday. He had been with her that same day, hours before setting up that romantic dinner for me. My stomach turned. That was the moment something inside me just broke. I don't know how this is going to end. I left. I packed a bag, called my best friend, and walked out. Nick is still texting me, calling me. I haven't answered. I don't even know what I'm supposed to do next. All I know is, this isn't over yet. I barely remember driving to my best friend's place. I must have been on autopilot, because the next thing I knew, I was sitting in her living room, gripping a mug of tea so hard my knuckles turned white. Say that again, Rachel said, staring at me like I had just told her I'd murdered someone. I let out a dry, humorless laugh. Which part? The part where a woman, his mistress, walked out of your bathroom. In your robe. I exhaled slowly, still feeling the burn in my chest. She acted like I was the guest in my own damn house. Smirked at me. Told me they'd been together for a year. Rachel stood up so fast the couch creaked. I will kill him. I swear to God. Where does he live now? Do we need matches and gasoline? I almost smiled, but it was the kind of smile that felt too tight, too painful. He's still at the house. Probably still trying to call me. As if on cue, my phone buzzed again. Nick. I flipped it over without answering. Rachel sat back down, shaking her head. And you're sure this isn't the first time? I stared at the steam rising from my tea. No. But the hotel key card. My stomach clenched just thinking about it. That was from yesterday. He was with her yesterday. Then he came home and set up a romantic dinner like nothing happened. Rachel let out a long breath. Okay. So what's the plan? You taking the house in the divorce? That's when something inside me twisted. I blinked. I don't know if I want to divorce him yet. Rachel snapped her head toward me. Excuse me? I ran my fingers through my hair. My brain was a mess. I mean, I'm furious, obviously. I want to set all his stuff on fire. But I also want to know why. I need to understand what the F happened before I make any decisions. Rachel crossed her arms, eyes narrowing. Oh, I can tell you what happened. He's a lying piece of S who thought he could have his cake and eat it too. I rubbed my temples. Yeah, probably. But there's something about her, the way she acted. She wasn't just some affair partner. She seemed smug. Like she knew something I didn't. Rachel hesitated. Like she wanted you to find out? I swallowed hard. Maybe. The thought chilled me. By the next morning, Nick had stopped calling. Instead, he showed up. Rachel's apartment has one of those old-fashioned intercoms, the kind that buzzes so loudly it could wake the dead. When it rang, I nearly jumped out of my skin. Rachel grabbed the receiver and pressed the talk button. Unless you're the pizza guy, F off. Rachel, it's me, Nick's voice crackled through. I need to talk to her. Please. Rachel turned to me, eyebrows raised. I gritted my teeth. Let him up. Her mouth dropped open. Are you serious? I just want to see what he has to say. Rachel sighed dramatically, but pressed the button. Fine. But if he says anything stupid, I'm throwing my coffee at him. A few minutes later, Nick knocked on the door. When I opened it, I barely recognized him. He looked like S, eyes bloodshot, face pale, hair a mess. He must not have slept. Good. Hey, he said, voice hoarse. I folded my arms. Why are you here? He exhaled shakily, rubbing a hand over his face. I need to explain. Please. Let me talk. I stared at him. Then I stepped aside. Rachel groaned loudly from the couch. Ugh. Fine. But I'm supervising. Nick barely glanced at her as he walked in. He sat down on the far end of the couch, shoulders hunched. For a long moment, he didn't say anything. Then, I fed up, he whispered. I fed up so bad. No S. I kept my face blank. Why her? How long has it really been going on? He swallowed hard. A year. Maybe a little longer. My stomach twisted. And you just, what? Had a whole other relationship? Slept with her and then came home to me? Nick looked miserable. I don't have an excuse. I was selfish. I thought I could keep things separate. I thought. He trailed off, shaking his head. It doesn't matter what I thought. Who is she? I cut in. Nick blinked. I leaned forward. Because she seemed way too comfortable in my house. She laughed when I found out. Like she'd been waiting for that moment. Nick's hands clenched into fists. His jaw tightened. Nick, I pressed, heart pounding. Tell me the truth. Who the F is she? He looked down. And in the quietest voice, he said, her name is Vanessa. She's my boss's wife. I almost fell off the couch. Rachel did fall off the couch. Excuse me? I stared at him, mouth open. You had an affair with your boss's wife? Nick nodded, looking like he wanted to disappear into the floor. Rachel let out a scream. Oh my God, you fing idiot. You don't just cheat, you cheat with your boss's wife? Are you trying to ruin your entire fing life? Nick winced. I didn't plan for it to happen. Rachel flailed her arms. Oh, right, because you just tripped and fell into her for over a year? Nick turned to me, eyes desperate. She came on to me first, okay? I swear. She's manipulative. Controlling. She wanted me to leave you. I never wanted that. I shook my head, my pulse hammering. So what? You just went along with it? Nick buried his face in his hands. She's dangerous, okay? She told me if I left her, she'd ruin me. I scoffed. And what about me, Nick? What did you think I was going to do when I found out? He looked up, his expression so full of regret that, for just 1 second, I almost felt something close to pity. Then Rachel snapped her fingers. Wait. Hold on. If she's your boss's wife, then doesn't that mean? My stomach dropped. Nick looked away. I swallowed hard. Does he know? Nick didn't answer. Rachel let out a long, dramatic breath. Oh, F. She's setting you up. That's why she was so smug. She wants you to get caught. She wants your boss to find out. She wants to ruin you. Nick clenched his jaw. I know. I stared at him. And for the first time since this whole nightmare started, I realized something. This wasn't just a cheating scandal anymore. This was a FNG mess. And it was far from over. I don't even know where to start anymore. I thought my world had already shattered. I thought I had hit the lowest point when I found her in my home, in my bathrobe, acting like she belonged there. But somehow, this just keeps getting worse. It's been 2 days since Nick told me the truth. That Vanessa, the smirking woman I found in my bathroom, wasn't just some random girl. She was his boss's wife. And she wasn't just cheating on her husband for fun. She wanted me out of the picture. And now I'm starting to think she's willing to do whatever it takes to get what she wants. I didn't answer Nick's texts or calls after he came to Rachel's. I needed space. I needed time. But mostly, I needed to figure out my next move. Then, late that night, I got a message. Unknown number, we need to talk. I have information you'll want. Meet me tomorrow at 3 p.m. The coffee shop on 5th and Maple. Come alone. I stared at my phone for a long time, heart pounding. Rachel, reading over my shoulder, let out a low whistle. This screams shady. You going? I hesitated. I should have ignored it. I should have blocked the number. But something in my gut told me, this mattered. So the next day, I went. When I walked into the cafe, I immediately spotted him. A man in his early 40s, neatly dressed, with a face that looked like it had seen too much. He looked up as I approached. His expression hardened. You're her. I slowly sat down. And you are? He exhaled sharply. Jason. Vanessa's husband. I froze. Her husband. My mouth went dry. How did you? Jason cut me off. Nick's a dumbass, he said bluntly. I've known for a while that she was screwing around. She's careless. But it wasn't until last night that I found out who it was with. I swallowed hard. Last night? Jason reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. He tapped the screen a few times, then turned it toward me. I felt the blood drain from my face. It was a photo of Nick and Vanessa in a hotel parking lot. Yesterday. She was pressed up against his car, kissing him like she didn't have a husband waiting at home. Nick's hands were on her waist. My stomach twisted. Jason's voice was cold. That's not the first time I caught her, but it's the first time I had proof. And the first time I had a name. I clenched my fists. What do you want from me? Jason leaned forward. I don't care about Nick. I don't care about your marriage. But I need you to understand something. His voice dropped lower. Vanessa is not just some bored housewife. She plays games. Dangerous ones. I frowned. What the hell does that mean? Jason's fingers tightened around his coffee cup. It means she doesn't just cheat and move on. She destroys people. A chill ran down my spine. Nick said she was manipulative, but Jason let out a harsh laugh. Manipulative? That's putting it lightly. You ever hear about David Carter? I shook my head. Jason's expression darkened. He worked for me. My previous right-hand man. He and Vanessa had an affair a couple of years ago. I suddenly felt like I couldn't breathe. Jason's next words sent ice through my veins. He's dead now. I couldn't speak. I just stared at Jason, trying to process what he had just said. He died? I finally whispered. Jason studied me, then leaned back in his chair. That's the official story. My skin crawled. And the real story? Jason lowered his voice. David found out Vanessa was playing him. He wanted to tell me everything. He was ready to expose her. Then, out of nowhere, he vanished. A week later, they found his car wrapped around a tree. I inhaled sharply. You think she? Jason didn't blink. I know she was involved. But she's smart. The police ruled it an accident. No proof. No evidence. He exhaled. And now, your husband is her new toy. My mind raced. Vanessa wasn't just some cheater. She was dangerous. I felt my pulse hammering. Nick told me she wanted him to leave me. Jason gave me a pointed look. Then you need to be very, very careful. That night, I was lying on Rachel's couch, staring at the ceiling, trying to make sense of everything. My phone buzzed. Nick. This time, I picked up. His voice was shaking. I need your help. I sat up. What happened? He exhaled a sharp, panicked breath. Vanessa. She knows I told you about her. My stomach dropped. How? I don't know. She showed up at the house today. Said I had betrayed her. She was furious. She kept smiling, but it wasn't real. It was like, he let out a shaky breath. Like she was enjoying it. I gripped the phone tighter. Nick. What did she say? Nick's voice was almost a whisper. She said, if you won't leave her, then I'll make her leave you. The world tilted. I felt like my entire body had turned to ice. Nick, I forced out, my voice shaking. Are you saying she threatened me? Silence. Then, in a hollow voice, he said, I think she's coming after you. My fingers clenched around the phone. Nick, I whispered. Where are you right now? Another silence. Then, barely audible, I don't know. I'm hiding. I shot up from the couch. Hiding from what? Nick let out a shaky breath. I think she sent someone after me. I couldn't breathe. Nick was hiding. Vanessa had threatened me. Jason believed she was dangerous. And now, Nick thought she had sent someone after him. This was beyond an affair. This was something else entirely. I stood there, gripping my phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. Rachel was watching me, eyes wide, mouthing, what's happening? I couldn't answer her. Nick, I said into the phone, forcing my voice to stay steady. Where are you? I'll come get you. No, he said quickly. You can't. If she sees you, his breathing was fast, panicked. I think she's having me followed. I need to get out of here. A loud noise came through the phone. A sharp, metallic bang, like something heavy had hit metal. Then, Nick's breath hitched. F, he whispered. F. I think, and then the line went dead. I didn't hesitate. We need to find him, I said, already grabbing my keys. Rachel, still looking stunned, blinked twice before grabbing her phone. Wait, what are we even doing? Calling the cops? What? I clenched my jaw. He's an idiot, but if Vanessa is as dangerous as Jason says, he could be in real trouble. Rachel stared at me. After what he did, you're still going to help him? I hesitated for half a second. Then I nodded. Rachel groaned. Fine. But if I get murdered because of your cheating husband's psycho side chick, I will haunt you. I didn't know where to start, but then I remembered something. Nick's phone had GPS tracking. He had insisted we turn it on years ago, just in case of emergencies. Well, congratulations, Nick, we finally found an emergency. I pulled up the app. The little blue dot showed his location moving fast, heading toward the industrial side of town. What the hell is he doing there? Rachel muttered. I didn't answer. I just drove. It took 15 minutes to get there, and when we did, my stomach dropped. Nick's car was there, parked outside an abandoned warehouse. The same warehouse Jason had mentioned earlier. The one where Vanessa's last affair partner was found dead. I slammed on the brakes. Nope, Rachel said. We are not walking into a horror movie. But I was already getting out. She groaned but followed me. I pulled out my phone, about to call Nick, when I heard it, a woman's voice. Tell me, Nick, did you really think you'd get away with betraying me? My blood turned to ice. It was Vanessa. I didn't think. I ran. The warehouse was cold and dark, the only light coming from a few overhead lamps flickering above. And there, in the center, Nick. He was on his knees, hands up, breathing hard. And standing in front of him was Vanessa. She looked calm. Too calm. Like someone completely in control. When she saw me, she smiled. Oh, look. The wife joins us. Rachel skidded to a stop behind me. Holy S, she whispered. Nick's eyes widened. You shouldn't be here. Vanessa tilted her head. That's where you're wrong. She stepped toward me, heels clicking against the concrete. I wanted you here. I clenched my fists. Why? She smirked. Because it's time for you to understand something. I don't lose. Ever. I took a deep breath. Then what is this? Huh? A game? A warning? I glanced at Nick, who looked absolutely terrified. You won, Vanessa. You took my husband. What more do you want? Her face twisted. I never wanted just your husband. I frowned. Then what? She took another step closer, lowering her voice. I wanted to see you break. I stared at her. And that's when it hit me. This was never about Nick. This was about me. She wanted me destroyed. She wanted me to crumble, to fall apart. She wanted to be the woman who took everything from me, my home, my husband, my peace. And I wasn't going to let her. I squared my shoulders. You're pathetic. Her eyes darkened. You think you're in control? I stepped closer, ignoring Nick's frantic look. But you're not. You're just a miserable woman who ruins everything she touches. Vanessa's nostrils flared. Watch your mouth. Or what? I snapped. You'll do to me what you did to David Carter? Her smile vanished. Nick froze. Rachel let out a slow, "Oh-s," dot. For the first time, Vanessa looked shaken. I pressed forward. That's right. I know. Jason knows. And it's only a matter of time before the cops do too. Her jaw clenched. There's no proof. I took another step. Maybe not. But tell me, Vanessa, do you think your husband is just going to let this go? Something shifted in her expression. A flicker of uncertainty. That's when I knew I had her. You wanted to break me? I said, voice low. You failed. You lost, Vanessa. And now, you're out of moves. Her breathing grew sharp. Her fingers twitched, like she wanted to hit me. Then, a voice rang out. Vanessa. We all whipped around. Jason. And he wasn't alone. Behind him? 2 police officers. Vanessa's entire body went rigid. Jason, she whispered. He stared at her, his face blank. Cold. It's over. Her mouth opened. Then closed. Then, she bolted. She turned, running toward the back exit, but the cops were faster. She didn't make it 5 feet before they grabbed her. Nick collapsed in relief. Rachel whispered, Holy S, for the millionth time. And I I just watched. Watched as Vanessa screamed, kicked, thrashed, watched as the police dragged her away. Watched as the woman who tried to ruin my life finally fell apart. Nick tried to apologize. I didn't listen. I filed for divorce the next day. Vanessa was arrested. Jason had enough evidence, financial records, suspicious transactions, testimonies, to reopen the investigation into David Carter's death. As for me, I moved out. Started over. And for the first time in a long time, I felt free. Because I wasn't broken. I had survived. And I was never going to let someone like Vanessa, or Nick, take anything from me again.